going on, YouTube? I just wanted to show this. So I built this drawer. It's going to be some drawers. So I built the cabinet. And there's the drawers right here. I got to mount the drawers with these Craig jigs, which are really nice for these kinds of ball bearing sliders. And then I've got to take these drawer faces and I've got to plane them and cut the ends down with the crosscut sled on the table saw until they fit inside of this opening absolutely perfectly. And I cut a bunch of 3/16 spacers that I'm going to use just to make sure we get a nice even gap all the way around. So let's get to it then. I'm just going to do a time lapse so you can just see it fast, you know, so it's not a long boring video, but this is useful information, so watch. All right, well, I didn't show the building of this, you know, Baltic birch plywood box because I think everyone knows how to cut a piece of plywood into a square and glue and nail them together to make a box. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then the face frame here is just, I mean, we use poplar here. Usually I like to use maple, nice hard maple if it was like something that's supposed to be really nice. But I mean, this is a basement, and you know, cost is usually a factor. And the only part that's really tough about this is the drawer faces. If they were overlay drawer faces where the drawer face is bigger than the opening, so it kind of just goes over the face frame, and if there's any errors or mistakes, it's covered up. But with an inlay or inset, not inlay, inset drawer face, you need a consistent gap all the way around. And I know I said 3/16, that's not what it is. I actually used 3/32. I have these little metal spacers that I, set on the table saw and ripped some spacers, but they're 3/32, not 3/16. 3/16 is kind of big. But yeah, if you've never used these Craig drawer slider jigs, man, these things are awesome. You can either screw them or clamp them to the face frame, and it keeps the bottom right here, it keeps it up 1/4 of an inch off of the face frame, and then usually I have 3/4 up here, because whatever the opening is, I subtract an inch. That gives me 1/4 at the bottom for tolerance and 3/4 at the top. And I'm not, this is being painted, so that's why I'm not, I'm putting screws into the face frame and stuff. It doesn't matter. It's not like this is a staying grade project. But yeah, you can see on the wall over here, well, when my fat ass gets out of the way, they want to mount a bigger TV on the wall. It used to come all the way up to here. This is where the trim was. Up there. So we had to frame it down so they can fit a 50 on the wall. And there was drawers here before. But holy crap, man. It looked like the homeowner did it. I hate to say that, but It was literally a two plywood boxes kind of screwed together, and the drawers were plywood boxes slid into a plywood box. There was no ball bearings, there was no gliders, there was none of that. All the plywood edges were exposed. It looked terrible. So they wanted something nicer. And this other opening that's over here was just open. There's no doors, or it was just an open cavity. So they wanted some doors to close it off, which I'm going to just make out of plywood because they want that square, sharp finish. They don't want shaker. They don't want none of that. They just want square, flat, and clean. So I'm just going to take some more of this Baltic birch, that iron-on strip that you can put on to cover the plywood edges, and get myself a door. But so yeah, actually here I'm actually using the jig the correct way. There's two lines. There's like a one here, right where the drawer stopped, and then there's a two like over here somewhere. You're supposed to bring the drawer to the one, put the two first screws in, then pull it out to the two mark and put the other two screws in. But because this is a 24-inch deep drawer, I just slid it all the way out. So you get those two furthest points for a more accurate thing. I don't know what the hell I was doing the first time. Maybe I forgot how to use the damn things, but it's very possible. I don't claim to be a pro by any means. And this is how fast I work, like in real time, too. Just if you were wondering. Yeah, right. Okay, so there's the crosscut sled that I made for my portable table saw. And I have to use the little outfeed thing to help support it because it wants to fall off the saw when you're pulling on it. So, but dude, the first time I did this, I tried to do an inset drawer face with just a table saw and a miter saw, and they came out terrible. You'd be surprised how far off these miter saws are. Like for nice, clean, square cuts. I mean, they're close, but I don't know. I get way better results with this crosscut sled for making nice, clean, square cuts. So basically, I had these drawer fronts pre-cut so they would just fit into those openings very tight. And now I'm dialing them back. And this is the importance of hand planes. Today I'm using the Veritas Bevel Up number 7. It doesn't get that much use, so I just was like, it's an inch shorter than my other Lee Nielsen. But you know what? You could probably even get away with a jack plane. But the longer the plane is, the more accurate it is. Yeah, and that what I just quickly showed you with in the speed of lightning is the fast cap edge brake. It's like a piece of sandpaper folded into this plastic thing, and you have something to grab instead of just trying to hold a piece of sandpaper. And you get uneven pressure from your hand. You don't get even pressure from holding it, but you get even pressure with that fast cap thing, and you just run it across the board a few times, man, and it's like just it's so clean and so crisp, and everything has been just, it's not like a routered rounded edge, but it's just broken. So it's not a sharp corner. It's clean. That must be where, yeah. Oh. Looks like I lost some footage, but yeah, so I tacked the drawer face on with 2 pin nails after I had all my spacers where I wanted them, and then carefully pulled the drawer out, and then from the back I went in with some of those 1¼ inch Craig screws. You know, they're finished cabinet screws anyway, so put a couple of them on each ends, you know, pop the knobs in, and it's good to go. So you can see I'm just, you know, I'm planing it, checking it, planing it, checking it, planing it, checking it. I did the length first, and now I'm doing the width. And there was a little discrepancy on this top one, in that top right-hand corner. That's why I took out the pocket plane, and I kind of just, you know, this edge over here just needed a little bit. So I just kind of finished it off with that little plane, and now we're going to break all the edges, not router them because they want everything square. So we're giving you square, but soft. Now I'm just finishing up with some 220, marking out where the handle's going to go ahead of time. It's easier to mark out on the flat than, you know, up on something. Okay, we pop it in, we throw all of our spacers in, make sure all the gaps look right, tack it in with 2 nails. Boom. Pry it out. Now we put in our Craig screws. And then after, I'll take the sander with some like 80 grit, and I'll go over the whole face frame and the drawers just to knock any like little, just anything. You know, just go over it with 80, then go over it with 220, and it's just like freaking mint after that. So I got the drawers in. Screwed right down. There's some screws under the drawers and some going into the studs. I had to get back there, shim it up. There's a cleat on the back wall there, because now we're going to put a plywood top across this with a banded front edge so you don't see the plywood edges. But for speed, we had someone else frame this down, and now I can't get the plywood top in there all in one piece. So I had to get smart here. So I ripped a groove right down the center of the plywood and made a spline. I'll be able to glue this spline in there. And connect these 2 halves. Check that out. Yeah. Another nice little trick. Just need a router bit like that, and a table saw to make a spline. That's it. Alright, we're gonna make this plywood edge nice and pretty. We're gonna first take the plane it down smooth, and then we're gonna iron on some of this. It's just Baltic birch. This is from a plywood store, not Home Depot. So this is good stuff. And then once we heat this up and glue this on, we'll take the flush trim router bit, rip off the excess, and then just finish it up with sandpaper. So I'll do a quick time lapse of that too. And look at this. You can't tell where that edge banding starts or stops, but you can see it on the end grain. You just want to round that corner, so if someone slides something off of the shelf, it's not going to catch that lip and peel this off. So you just sand it smooth and make sure nothing's loose. She's done. Alright, this blind, oh, it's really dark. Hold on. It's right here. Can barely see it. Once that's filled and painted, you'll never see it. Oh, what? And there it is. Plywood, big plywood top that I couldn't fit in this small opening without cutting it in half. Now they get some drawers, so now I just gotta put some casing, trim, and base across the bottom. A couple doors over there. Happy days. Looking good. So the main reason I was showing the drawer face, you know, the Inset drawer faces was, you know, I showed all you guys how useful these things are. And like a lot of new finished carpenters have no freaking clue. I mean, these things have been around for forever, and it's like not something that's taught anymore. I think it's important to like pass it down. I really do. But I mean, if you consider yourself a finished carpenter and you want to try to bring your work up to the next level and make everything that much nicer, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, but you're interested, you could probably get away with a block plane and a jack plane. This is a little bit bigger than a smoothing plane. It's long enough that you could probably flatten some boards. You may have to check them and keep going back a few times. They're not as accurate as, you know, a 2-foot long joiner, but you can get the job done with this. And you could do some smoothing with it if you had to. Just, you know, instead of going straight on the board, you just kind of cock the plane off on an angle so your contact point is in the front and then like over here in the back, instead of when you're straight, your contact points in the back and the front. So you have all this surface area, but if you cock it off to the side, you know, you can shorten that distance and get into those little grooves and alleys. But man, these things, I mean, I could just, like, they're so useful and they do such a nice job, especially with a sharp blade, man. Like, I tried doing those Inset anything without a hand plane before, with just table saw and miter saw, and it was it was not good. It was pretty ugly, but whatever. So if you found this video helpful, where is it? Where? Oh yeah, it's right there. Yeah, right there. Little subscribe thingy. Just go ka-dink. Just a little one. That's all it takes. And thumbs up, and you know, throw me a comment. That'd be really cool of you. And I'll see you guys on the next one.